Hello and welcome to Global Business. I am Imeroye Uhiomokai. As always, we have a lot on the program. Today, we shall be looking at the cashless economy, the fuel subsidy removal, and a lot more. Now, the Nigerian government says that it will be replacing the fuel subsidy with a 5,000 naira transport grant a month to 40 million Nigerians. A lot of Nigerians have asked me personally, am I one of those 40 million Nigerians? Well, Zainab Ahmed, who is the Minister of Finance and Budget and National Planning, says that the government has obtained an $800 million relief package from the World Bank. Now, that's a loan, it's not a grant. But this loan is to lessen the effects of the withdrawal of fuel subsidies. She says that the money will be disbursed to 10 million households in cash. When will they start? Who is going to disburse the money? These are questions we'll be asking and we'll be seeking answers as the weeks go by, especially as you know that this administration is rounding up. Our street business correspondent, Rachel Abioye, went out to speak with some people on this fuel subsidy and grant issue. Now, just wait for it. You'll be shocked at what people have to say. Our business celeb for the week is a young man who didn't allow society box him into what they say men and women should do. He followed his passion, and you'll be hearing from him from the horse's mouth and knowing what that passion is. On Talking Point, we'll have the first professor of capital markets in Nigeria. He's our guest, Professor Uche Uwaleke. He'll be analyzing different issues on the table. But first, let's have business trends.
The World Bank says the projected growth rate for Nigerian economy in 2023 is 2.8%, down from 3.3% in 2022. The bank said economic growth is anticipated to pick up modestly in 2024 to 2025, reaching an average annual rate of 3%. This amounts to growth per capita of 0.2% in 2023 and 0.4% in 2024 to 2025, which is insufficient to lessen the country's extreme poverty. A report from the National Pension Commission says Nigeria's pension fund assets rose from 13.76 trillion naira to 15.45 trillion naira in just 1 year. The increase from February 2022 to February 2023 is 1.68 trillion naira. The report also shows that the treasury bills and bonds issued by the federal government accounted for 64.4% of the total funds, or 9.98 trillion naira, while the remaining funds were invested in domestic and foreign common stocks, real estate, corporate debt securities, supranatural bonds, and ordinary shares of other countries. The data also reveals that there were 9,919,281 retirement saving accounts as of February 28, 2023. In other news, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, says the UK's economy will perform the worst among the 20 largest economies in 2023. The IMF expects the UK economy to contract this year, which is a little improvement above its previous prediction. It foresaw a rocky path ahead for the world financial system. This revelation comes with the wake of the failure of two American banks last month, which was swiftly followed by competitor USB's hasty acquisition of Swiss banking giant Credit Suisse, raising concerns about the possibility of another financial disaster. And now in Kenya, even as union groups threaten to strike over unpaid March salaries, Kenya's president, William Ruto, declared that the nation will not seek loans to pay civil servants. Ruto claims that the country's significant public debt, some of which are due this month, is to blame for the salary delays. He also highlighted that the Revenue Authority's tax collection will be used to fund the salaries. However, at least two worker umbrella organizations have threatened a strike this week. According to Kenya's top economic advisor, salaries will be paid before the end of this month. The government has also been urged to stop wasteful spending on taxes. And that's it on Business Trends. I am Victor Anigo Nomsu.
Welcome back. We'll go on a break, and after that break, we have street business.
The Nigerian government secures $800 billion from World Bank to replace the subsidy that is scheduled to be eliminated by June. The federal government said this money would be distributed to 10 million households and would cover for transportation. Listen to the opinions of Nigerians.
The 5,000, whether 5,000, whether no 5,000, you don't even hear like life for that one. No be today we connect 5,000. Now 5,000 the shops is where they born us. And 5,000 our father, our mother take train us. No be 5,000. We don't get time for any 5,000. 5,000 is for their own pocket. Before they say they give us 5,000, 1 million don't enter their account.
That 5,000 naira is mean nothing to Nigeria. I think that agenda is emanating from the pit of hell to suffer Nigeria. I don't buy into that idea of removing subsidy where there's no refinery in place, nothing, no measure has been put in place, no vehicle that will help to subsidize the transportation, and immediately they remove subsidy. Now there's going to be high inflation.
It is unclear if the next administration will discontinue the subsidy program. But some Nigerians are hopeful that this grant works out as proposed. I am Rachel Abioye.
I'm a stylist. It's my passion. This is what I have passion for. And by the grace of God, I've started this work over 10 years now. It's what I like doing, and it gives me joy.
And how has the experience been for you?
I don't see it has been tough anyway, because due to economic situation of the country, and it's everywhere is tough. The source of living right now is very, very unbearable, but by the grace of God, we are coping gradually, and we're hoping for a better tomorrow. And in case of many men attempt to be a woman job, it's none of my business. As far as God put it in my foot, my table, telling me to go to the street and be doing something that is not good for me to do, which is against the law of the land and even against the God. So I will not do anything of such. So I decided to remain focused and do what I know is right. That provided food to my table.
I love that last word you said. You said instead of you to do what is not right,
yes,
you decided to venture into
yes,
this.
yes.
Now tell me, how did your family, your friends, people reacted when they discovered that this is what you're doing?
In fact, it has come to that time where some people will be coming, will passing, they will say, "Look at this one doing woman work." They will be laughing. It's a common thing that is happening in the society. But that has not been any distraction to me, since it's my focus. This is what I want. I'm not regretting doing this job today because it provides food on my table. And as I'm talking to you, it's not easy right now, but I'm looking forward and see how God can do to make this work more than this. But what my advice for them is that they should, since if it is their vision and their passion, they should go into it. It's not harming it. It's very, very good.
Wow. I am thoroughly inspired. I hope you are. The essence of our business celeb is to inspire you. And I hope that you get inspired by our stories to do yours. Let's move on now. We have Uche Uwaleke, who is the first professor of capital markets in Nigeria and a former commissioner of finance in Imo State. He is our guest on Talking Points. He hits on different issues. You want to listen to this interview.
Well, there's no doubt about the claim that you made in respect of the rate of kidnapping actually dropping since the introduction of the currency redesign, particularly in the months of December, January, February. Yes, witnessed a reduction in kidnapping, and it's for obvious reasons. A number of these kidnappers, demand cash, and when cash is not in circulation, the motivation to kidnap, the incentive more or less is removed. So it's not a surprise that the last couple of weeks, the rate of kidnapping, at least we have not read kidnapping happening at a scale at which we used to hear or read about. So it has really reduced. Well, the Supreme Court has said the old notes should also exist side by side with the new ones up till December 31st. And following the understanding the central bank has with the Nigerian Labour Congress, more of these old notes, will be churned out. But my sense is that we may not have the volumes, that we used to have prior to the currency redesign. Remember that before the currency redesign, the central bank, made us understand that a lot of cash was circulating outside the vault of the central bank. We call that currency in circulation. Now, out of that currency in circulation of about 3.3 trillion, 2.7 trillion of that was circulating outside the banks. Okay, and that was, according to the central bank, making it difficult for the bank to implement monetary policy. So the central bank, through the currency redesign, cash withdrawal limit, was able to mop up, as we have been told, over 1.9 trillion, or say, 2 trillion. Okay, so but recently we have been told that the central bank has released some more money, and as we speak, that currency in circulation is now around 1 trillion. So even if more notes are going to be released, I don't see us getting to that 3.3 trillion that we used to have. So remember, the cash withdrawal limit is still there. I'm sure if you go to bank, you don't get as much as you would want to get. Central bank has said 20,000 for individuals, but of course that has been, I understand some people over the counter, you can now get much more. But I'm pretty sure you don't get as much as you want to get. In some banks, you still have queues. So however you look at it, I don't see us returning to status quo and returning to the situation in which we had so much cash circulating outside the banks. And to that extent, I'm also sure that it will also continue to moderate the rate of kidnapping, insecurity, generally. So kidnappers too will have that in mind, that when they're making demands, the kind of demands they'll be making, will not be such that will require somebody to go and bring. In those days, people could bring 50 million naira cash. I'm not sure such things are still possible now. And kidnappers, you'll be surprised, they are very conscious of what is going on in the society, so they are aware. So even if you are kidnapped now, except the person wants to really kill, if the motive is to make money, I'm not too sure that it will be a case of go and bring that quantum of cash. So I think to a large extent it succeeded in reducing the rate of kidnapping, even though it also had some other unintended consequences. For example, the fact that we had that cash crunch, the fact that a lot of small businesses, informal sector, the shoe shiner, all these informal people, the fact that they were also hard hit by cash, because if you were not carrying cash, you wouldn't be patronizing them. Okay, there were cases I know of a friend who couldn't fix his tire with this vulcanizer. I think that's what they call them.
Yes.
Because he wasn't having cash. So when these people don't get cash, it is also possible that within that period, one or two of them or a few of them must have taken to crime. Because when you depend on a daily collection of money to survive, and the money is not coming, again, you may be tempted to take to crime. Okay, so yes, you may reduce kidnapping, but the crime level too may also increase with respect to some other. There's no doubt that this economy is challenged by revenue. if you look at our debt burden, okay, the debt burden we have today is not because the ratio of debt to GDP is high. If you check in terms of international threshold, we are well below that. The recent debt figure released by the Debt Management Office, 46.25 trillion. Okay, according to the DMO, we are under 25% debt to GDP ratio, which is below 55% international threshold, below 40% self-imposed limit by Nigeria. Okay, but the burden is more because of debt service to revenue. It's a one in which you earn $1 or ₦1 and you spend as much as 80 kobo, 90 kobo, 90 cents servicing debt. That is where the problem is. So except we shore up revenue, we are going to be having serious problem. So part of why I understand where the minister is coming from, why she's suggesting we should ramp up value-added tax. Yes, Nigeria is not, I don't think we are the lowest. There are countries too that charge well below 7.5%, but we are one of the lowest, 7.5%. But that is not to say that I'm in support of raising it now to 10%. That has been the IMF advice. You want to increase your revenue, raise your taxes, but that's also because they have been looking at it from, in my view, a partial approach. In economics, we say partial equilibrium. When you're looking at it from just one prism, the VAT 7.5%. What about the other gamut of taxes? Yes, we have companies income tax in Nigeria today. For big companies, it's 30%. In addition, they also pay the education tax. Now it's been, they're increasing it to, 2 to 3%. So effective companies tax rate today in Nigeria is almost 32%. And when you compare that with what you have in other countries, in Ghana, for example, CIT, companies income tax is less than 30. I think 24%. In South Africa, it's less. In some other countries, less. So that tells you that if an investor, somebody wants to go to, is thinking of where to set up a company, do I set it up in Ghana or Nigeria? If the person is convergent tax, they will go to a lower places with lower tax. So it's a disadvantage. And you see, the more you have these companies, for example, if you reduce your tax and have more, you even stand to get more revenue. But if there are few people paying the tax, no matter how much you raise it, it may be less. You get the point I'm making. So it's not sufficient to say increase VAT from 7.5 to 10. Even if we admit that that should be so, what do we do with the others? I've always advocated for rebalancing our tax mix in favor of indirect tax. VAT is an indirect tax, it's a consumption tax. Yeah. So the rebalance means you look at companies' income tax and drop from say 30 to 26% or 27%. And then we can now increase VAT from 7.5 to 10. Okay, so we are rebalancing. We don't just increase without also looking at what should happen to direct taxes. Companies' income tax is a direct tax, and it affects companies, directly.
But the VAT affects more Nigerians than the CIT.
It depends on how you look at it. Consumption, remember, consumption tax, if you don't consume, you don't pay. VAT is consumption.
Yes.
So it's tied to consumption.
And so more Nigerians use more consumptive materials.
But there are things you consume that don't attract VAT. Yeah, that's the point I'm making. So that's why we say a consumption tax is unlike the direct tax. Indirect tax unlike direct tax. For companies, for example, why I'm saying it also affects virtually every segment of the economy. When government gets companies' income tax, it puts the revenue into the federation account, which is shared by all the tiers of the the federal government. These companies, if you raise their taxes so high, what happens is that it affects their performance. It affects even their ability to reinvest. It affects their ability to employ. So part of why we have higher unemployment rate in this country today is because the private sector is not employing. Okay, there's so much reliance or dependence on the public sector, and it's not the public sector actually that should be driving employment in the economy. It's the private sector, and for the private sector to create jobs opportunities, it has to be enabled, incentivized, and part of that those incentives should be fiscal, and fiscal incentives include taxes. So I'm saying that, in my view, the CIT we have in Nigeria today is high. If we have to increase the VAT, which I'm not against, move it to 10%, then there should be a corresponding decrease in direct taxes, so that the impact will not be negative on the economy in general.
And probably get more people into the CIT net.
Oh yeah, that's what it means. Once you reduce tax, okay, you now find more companies now voluntarily paying tax. Tax avoidance will reduce. Tax avoidance is where companies do all sorts of things to reduce the tax liability they're paying. Okay, even though that is legal. Tax avoidance is legal because they're only exploiting tax loopholes. Tax evasion will also reduce because, as I said, when taxes are lowered, okay, people will be more encouraged to pay tax. Getting Labour to the way the CBN governor, you saw the CBN governor and then Labour talk about the cash something, and then a solution was found. So I'm not seeing any current move to engage Labour, engage TUC, engage the Nigerian Labour Congress, academia, everybody on this issue, because you need to, have that engagement. You need to subsidy. People need to know what measures you have in place, to cushion the impact of removal of fuel subsidy, because whether we like it or not, it's going to have an immediate impact, and the immediate impact will be to skyrocket inflation rate. If you want to begin to buy fuel at 400 and over 400 naira filling station, or some even say if they remove it, maybe 700. When that happens, you can be sure that inflation will go up. But for me, that will be in the short run. We're expecting that Dangote refinery will come on stream. We're expecting that if the subsidy is removed, more investments will come. Okay, and as more investments come, the sector becomes competitive, such that prices can, begin to come down. Of course, initially the price of fuel will go up. Okay, so there's no doubt that the savings that we made from that, for example, between January and June, the government in the 2023 budget is providing for over 3 trillion in fuel subsidy. That means if you allow it to run for the full year, it's 6 trillion. Yes. So imagine, what will happen if first government doesn't pay subsidy again. So we'll have some savings. Okay, that kind of money is what the public will need to know what the government intends to do with it. How do you intend to plow back the 3 trillion? Where will you go? Education, health, infrastructure. What exactly are you going to do with the money you're going to save? Because that is critical. Okay, so I support fuel subsidy removal because of the negative effects, yes, that has on the economy. As a matter of fact, it's not, if you look at it critically, it's not even something that benefits the poor. People talk about first, yes, it's actually the rich that this fuel subsidy thing is benefiting, and you don't subsidize consumption by the rich, because the rich people that actually benefiting. I'm not saying the poor don't benefit, yes, but the rich people benefit more from fuel subsidy. So the best thing to do is to remove it and then use it to now subsidize production, use it to subsidize things that will benefit the poor. I give an example. If part of the subsidy is used to implement or to widen the scope of the National Health Insurance Scheme, such that the market woman can benefit from, if she's sick, she can go to the hospital and receive a treatment, that would be a good idea. For now, the National Health Insurance Scheme is only covering about just less than 5% of the population, just civil servants. So the person selling POSE and so on, she's on her own. The market woman is on her own. So we should have a scheme that should cover them. So if you have a scheme that ensures that market woman, I'm using a market woman, as proxy for the ordinary Nigerian, that the ordinary Nigerian can train his child in school, okay, have access to healthcare, have access to education, okay. Once you're able to reduce out-of-pocket expenses that people make, you reduce them. That will go a long way, okay, in address some of the ills we have in the society and in the economy. So I think, yes, fuel subsidies should go, but the government should begin now to communicate that and also put in place plans, okay, and structures to ensure that by the time the thing is eased, that the impact on the people is not significantly felt, negatively. And because I'm sure that over time, the positive implications will begin to, unravel. I also think that removal of fuel subsidy is critical for the implementation of the Petroleum Industry Act. That PIA will not work if you have subsidy, because you can't be subsidizing fuel, okay? NNPC is the only one, and then you're asking some other people to come into the country. So there's no level playing field. So it has to go for more people to show interest in that sector.
And yes, that's it for Global Business today. Remember that this program comes to you same time, same station next week. Global Business is a production of Cinema. I am Uche Uwaleke. It's always nice doing business with you.